Go into the world and tell every man that you meet, there is a man on the cross.
A Catholic Take. What you need to know right now. A bold synthesis of inspiration and information. Keeping you up to date on the news and issues from a courageous Catholic perspective.
A Catholic Take with Joe McLean starts now.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McLean. So good to be on with you. Praise be to God. It is Friday. You have survived the week. Congratulations. Just imagine what you'll accomplish over the weekend. I can't wait. I can't wait for you. It's going to be great. But before you go, let's have a few opportunities here to conversate about stuff that's going to be fun. Like Cardinal Cupich, for instance, weighing in on tradition versus traditionalism. He says, tradition is the living faith of the dead. Traditionalism is the dead faith of the living. I'm going to get into that with Dr. Anthony Stine at 30 past the hour. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll read a bit of the article that he posted over at chicagocatholic.com or org or whatever it is, and I'll link to everything for you in the show notes so you can read it for yourself. Also, Tim Kaine from Virginia, of all places from Virginia, has come out and said at a hearing yesterday that your rights, they come from the government, not from God. Really? I thought declaration seemed to suggest otherwise, but nonetheless, Bishop Robert Barron has come out against that with a statement that he says Tim Kaine is being dangerous to our democracy. And we're going to respond to that with Nicholas Cavazos from the Traditional Thomist podcast coming up at 14 past the hour. So it's going to be a full show plus the after show, and we're still playing ACT Bingo, and prizes are at stake. I'm going to be mailing those prizes, and you still should get on the email list so you can get access to the insiders. All of that can be found at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. We have a lot to get to today. Do share us with a friend. We would be grateful. Let's pray. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and now your saint of the day.
Saint Teresa of Calcutta, pray for us. Mother Teresa was born with the name Agnes to an Albanian family in the year of our Lord 1910. From an early age, she desired to be a missionary, and at age 17 she joined the Sisters of Loreto in Ireland, taking the name Teresa in honor of the little flower, St. Therese. After contracting tuberculosis in Calcutta, India, where she had been sent to teach, Teresa discerned a calling to work with the poorest of the poor, and the Vatican approved her request to leave the sisters and work directly under the Archdiocese of Calcutta. Some of her former students joined her, and in 1950 they formed the Missionaries of Charity. Mother Teresa gained a great deal of public attention and praise for her work with the poor, including a Nobel Peace Prize. But she was also a frequent target of secular criticism for her defense of Catholic teachings against abortion and other evils. She suffered from long periods of spiritual dryness and great interior struggles, though always presenting a joyful and charitable Catholic demeanor to others. She also influenced the conversion of famous figures like English author Malcolm Muggeridge. After several health struggles, Mother Teresa died in the year of our Lord 1997. She is now co-patron of the Archdiocese of Calcutta, alongside the great St. Francis Xavier. For more about this day and others in the Church's calendar, visit thestationofthecross.com/saintsandseasons. St. Teresa of Calcutta, pray for us.
And now your headline news. Newsmax reports D.C. sues Trump over National Guard deployment. Washington, D.C. has filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration over the deployment of National Guard troops in the capital city. Armed soldiers should not be policing American citizens on American soil, said D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab yesterday on X, going on to say the forced military occupation of the District of Columbia violates our local autonomy and basic freedoms. It must end. Apparently, they don't like crime-free zones. Whatever. Breitbart reports Justice Department considering ban on transgenders owning firearms. Senior officials at the U.S. Department of Justice have held multiple meetings in recent days to consider possible federal ban of transgendered individuals from owning firearms. Multiple sources familiar with the matter, including one official inside the DOJ, confirmed that the Office of Legal Counsel, which advises the Attorney General on legal matters, has held several such meetings since the Minneapolis Catholic school shooting. And Catholic Vote reports RFK gives full defense of Maha in Senate hearing. A Senate Finance Committee hearing erupted into a showdown yesterday as Democrats questioned Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who responded with a forceful defense of his Make America Healthy Again mission. The wide-ranging hearing touched on everything from chronic diseases and vaccines to abortion pills and skyrocketing autism, as well as how much money Elizabeth Warren has taken from Big Pharma. And those are your headline news. The gospel today comes to us from Luke chapter 5, verses 33 through 39. The scribes and the Pharisees said to Jesus, "Why do the disciples of John fast and make prayers, and the disciples of the Pharisees in like manner, but thine eat and drink?" To whom he said, "Can you make the children of the bridegroom fast whilst the bridegroom is with them? The days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken away from them. Then shall they fast in those days." And he spoke also a similitude to them, that no man putteth a piece from a new garment upon an old garment. Otherwise he both rendeth the new, and the piece taken from the new agreeth not with the old. And no man putteth new wine into old bottles. Otherwise the new wine will break the bottles, and it will be spilled, and the bottles will be lost. But new wine must be put into new bottles, and both are preserved. And no man drinking old hath presently a mind to new, for he saith, the old is better. The Gospel of the Lord. Laus tibi Christi. Father Haydock, writing back in the 19th century, says St. Matthew says it was St. John's disciples themselves that objected to this Christ. Most probably both they and the Pharisees endeavored all they could to press this objection. St. Austin comments, "Why do you not fast, as is customary, with all that wish to regulate their lives according to the law? The reason why the saints fasted was that they might, be afflicting their bodies, subdue their passions. Jesus Christ, therefore, had no need of fasting, being God, and of course free from the least disorderly motion of concupiscence. Neither did his attendants stand in need of fasting, for being enriched with his grace, they were strengthened in virtue without the help of fasting. When therefore Christ fasted 40 days, he fasted to set an example to carnal men." So says St. Cyril. As long as the spouse is with us, we are in joy. We cannot fast, we cannot mourn. But when he has been driven away by sin, then we must both fast and weep, according to the Venerable Bede. The Ignatius Catholic Study Bible would say the bridegroom, Yahweh, was the divine husband of Old Covenant Israel. Isaiah 54, Jeremiah 3, Hosea 2, etc. Jesus now assumes this role as the divine spouse of the church, Matthew 25, Ephesians 5, Revelation 19. A Catholic commentary in Holy Scripture also had a lot to say. It says, with Mark and Matthew and Luke adds further parabolic utterances. Luke alone here uses the name parable, by which Jesus explains his attitude to the traditional observances of Judaism. Note, no one having torn a patch from a new garment putteth it upon an old garment. By the way, speaking in parables reminds us of who? Of Solomon. right? Solomon spoke in parables as well, and one greater than Solomon is here. He goes on, the meaning of these parables is much disputed, but it seems to be this. Jesus is indeed setting up as a religious teacher, but not like his adversaries. Everybody had noticed this already. See, for instance, chapter 4, verse 32. They were amazed at his teaching, for his word was with authority, and not as the scribes, as Mark 1:22 says. Jesus now says that his teaching is such that it must be put into new men. Note the concluding words of Luke in verse 39, where our Lord seems to express a feeling of sympathy for the Jews who find a difficulty in contemplating the abrogation of what they had been taught to look on as sharing the very eternity of God himself. Jesus has yet to make them realize that the Mosaic dispensation loses nothing of its honor in finding its perfection and completion in him. But it would be false to conclude from these parables that he has any intention of preserving it. To add the gospel onto the framework of the old observance would be to spoil both. The dispensation, the Mosaic dispensation, has come to an end. It has been perfected in Jesus, who took upon all of the covenant curses upon himself so that he could perfect it and bring about the new. The people of God, the covenant people of God, the Israel is in fact the church, founded upon the rock by our Savior Jesus Christ, who is both God and man. He is our divine spouse. Let's contemplate that.
Did you know you can help evangelize simply by using your cell phone? The Station of the Cross is partnering with iCatholic Mobile, America's only Catholic mobile phone company. When you join iCatholic Mobile, a portion of every dollar will support our programming. Plus, you'll enjoy great service with iCatholic Unlimited 5G data, text, and talk. With iCatholic Mobile, you can stay connected with family and friends while also spreading the truth of Jesus Christ with clarity and charity. Join today at iCatholicMobile.com.
Tim Kaine from Virginia has come out, and he said yesterday in a committee hearing that basically our rights come from the government and not from God. Bishop Robert Barron had a lot to say. Have a quick listen.
Everybody, it's Bishop Barron. I just feel obligated to speak out against something that I came across today, and I just found it so outrageous and really so dangerous to our democracy. It was Senator Tim Kaine at I think it was a Senate confirmation hearing. And he was actively contesting the view that our rights come from God and not from the government. And he said it's very dangerous if you claim that our rights don't come from laws and from government. Well, what struck me was he's a senator from Virginia. Virginia was a state of Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, both of whom took it as fundamental to our democracy that our rights don't come from the government, they come from God. So we know the familiar words of Jefferson. Right, that we are created equal, created by God. We're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
I'm going to link to everything in the show notes so you can watch the full comments from Bishop Robert Barron over at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. But joining us now from the Traditional Thomist YouTube channel is Nicholas Cavazos. Nicholas, welcome back. Good morning to you.
Thanks for having me on, my friend.
I'm not sure what's more interesting to me. Tim Kaine, a politician from Virginia, of all places, who thinks that our rights come from the government, or quoting Thomas Jefferson, who denied the Holy Trinity, the divinity of Jesus, hated the apostles, especially didn't like St. Paul, and made up his own little Bible, cutting out all miracles and mentions of the divinity of Jesus. I'm not sure which is more interesting to me. What do you say?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting, rock and a hard place that the bishop is in, just because on the one hand, while he is right that the founding fathers would have been appalled at this statement from Senator Tim Kaine, because I think Senator Tim Kaine is obviously, like most politicians, influenced by communism in some form or fashion, or just big government ideals, they would also probably not agree with the Catholic teaching 100% wholesale, right? Because the traditional Catholic teaching on, for instance, the role of the church and the state is not one of separation, which was very much so Thomas Jefferson's kind of mentality that you see leak out in his letters, but was very much so of the state, which is its own entity, right, getting its moral dictates from the church, who has the deposit of Christ.
Yeah. I also think it's fascinating because we find ourselves in the situation we are now, I think in part because of Thomas Jefferson, because of the way he saw that relationship between God and man, between the state and religion. It seems to be like, he's a product of the Reformation. He's a product of Enlightenment. He's a product of modernity and the modernist cause.
Yeah, you could argue that. I think we do get a little bit from him. But what's so interesting about this is that leftists love to cherry pick Thomas Jefferson's quotation of separation of church and state from his letters, right, that he was writing to in personal correspondence with friends, as opposed to reading the Federalist Papers, which are more or less the actual keys to understanding the Constitution, as well as the Declaration, which you see presidents like Calvin Coolidge rightly point out are actually fundamental to understanding the American way of thinking. And so what we see in the former documents is rather a very different idea, which is that religion is not supposed to be expunged from society. Religion is very much so supposed to be to inform society. But as you and I know, as kind of Civil War buffs, this was very, very strongly kept up until the time of the Civil War, because you see most of the states have state religions, right? The First Amendment was seen as a shackle on the federal government, not state governments, because the states gave their consent to be governed to the federal government. And so the federal government couldn't, authorize a national law, but the states very much so could. Most of the states, of course, did. Even after the time of the Civil War, many of the states had a lot of moral laws on top of it. But it was really with the passing of the 14th Amendment and the Due Process Clause, and then much later, even in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and even in our own era, where the Supreme Court starts making up all these insane leftist interpretations based on the Due Process Clause. And so things like, for instance, homosexuality, contraception, abortion, things like this, the founders would have never have pictured, right? But you see it taken in seed form in Jefferson's thought and then blown up later. But that's why, Thomism is so right? If you have a very small error in principles, then you have a massive error in results.
Which is interesting because in the Federalist article that I'm going to link to today on Tim Kaine's comments, they actually quote Thomas Aquinas. He says, Thomas Aquinas, who recognized that God created an ordered cosmos and that we can fully apprehend the natural law embedded in his creation through a combination of reason and revelation. Quote, the natural law is nothing else than the rational creature's participation of the eternal law, close quote, Aquinas wrote. And it also kind of reminds us, of course, of St. Paul, who Jefferson hated. In Romans 1, God wrote that on our hearts. Every man has natural law written on their hearts. We all know right from wrong. In a sense, we can recognize truth and goodness and beauty, unless, of course, we darken that with sin and our concupiscent nature. And it seems like Tim Kaine is throwing all of that out. I mean, is his issue, is he's worried? Is he just concerned that if we use the old, I've got rights from God card, that we can therefore throw out laws that are on the books by the government? Is that his big concern?
Well, I think a lot of these leftist politicians are scared of the Declaration of Independence, which has a really good line that says that if governments become oppressive and they start to do actions that are antithetical to the end of the common good, then the people have the right and the duty to throw off such governments and to accumulate to themselves new governments for their future security. And I think that leftist politicians, just like leftism in general, has done a very good job at destroying traditional America. What I mean by traditional America is that they want you to believe that everything that is traditionally European is wrong, everything that is masculine is wrong, everything that is Christian is wrong. And so they want essentially most people to be the porn watching, bug eating people in the pods who just listen to what the federal government says to do, never have any of their own independent thought, and definitely, God forbid, actually try to make a nation into a strong and prosperous people. And so I think Tim Kaine is worried the fact that when you look on Instagram, when you look on Twitter, when you look on TikTok, the predominant thing that you are seeing is the young right popping up everywhere. And the young right, unlike maybe even the old right, the old right of yesteryear in the 60s and 70s, the young right is very Christian. It is extremely Christian, and it wants a Christian nation. I mean, this is why we're talking so much about, for instance, things like both religious and ethnic nationalism in Gen Z political conversations. And I think these things scare people like Tim Kaine. They want to cling on to their power as much as they want, but ultimately it won't work, because if you're just a politician trying to keep, fighting for the rights of Guatemalans, which is what you see a lot of these leftist politicians say, that, that they're there to fight for the rights of some group that's not even American, it's not going to survive forever.
Thomas Jefferson's contemporaries accused him of being an atheist because of his, his deist perspectives and casting out so many Christian doctrines, let's just say. So the battle over whether or not our country is a Christian nation is not a new debate. It goes back to the founding fathers. Do you think, I don't personally believe we're a Christian nation, but do you think we can be?
Yeah, it's a fascinating debate. I do think that we were established to be a Christian nation, though you just have to look at it in the right historical line. Can we be one? Yes. But we can only be one if we have true leaders who are actually willing to put forward a true Christian agenda, which is unabashedly Christian and unabashedly pro-American, which says things along the nature of, we as a society must recognize that Christ is king. Practically how that looks is that we have to get rid of this culture of death. No more homosexuality, no more transgenderism. We actually have to promote massive, massive tax cuts to individuals who are having lots of kids, right? We need to be very pro-family. These are the type of policies that we need to say. We also need to be Christian in maybe areas which people don't really oftentimes consider. Things like, okay, we need to love our own people first, right? The people in our own nation first. So instead of, supposedly taking all of this tax dollars and spending them, on all of these great programs in foreign countries, which most of them not, they're just sending them to foreign countries. Instead of doing that, let's get the fentanyl addicted veteran off the street. Let's get our people that are suffering off of drugs. Let's get our people who are suffering back to work. These type of policies, very much so, can be pushed forward if you, on the one hand, have leaders who are willing to do that, and secondarily, people who are willing to kind of get off the couch and fight for a greater country.
So how do we reconcile, though, that when we say as a Christian nation, I mean, there's only one church that Christ founded. There's not 30,000 viewpoints here. So how would we reconcile that and still be a Christian nation?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's in a way, kind of an amusing question, because recently on my show, I've been kind of doing a lot of satirical content talking about kind of just the synodal way and just like the ever increasing branch of what it means to be in the quote people of God. But in a strict Catholic sense, you're right. There is only one church, and only those who are Catholic are considered strictly to be Christian. So how can we reconcile these things? I think, of course, you can play the nuance game and say there's little c Christian and proper sense Christian. But I think the only thing that ultimately matters in the sense of reconciliation is practical things, which is we were a nation that very much so put forward at least a sense of Christian morality in the past. And when we got rid of that, it got really, really bad, right? So the question will be is, in the future, in practical terms, how do we take care of our nation? Well, it's only going to be through the principles of Christ, right? Which is going to be the principles of authentic Catholicism. The question really will be on a geopolitical stage is, will the Vatican kind of go along with this like new rise of Gen Z conservatism that oftentimes many of them are zealous Catholics? And let's be honest, most people in the Vatican, at least that work in there, are globalists. They very, very much so want a government that just really puts other countries in some form or fashion first. It would be really epic to see someone like Pope Leo come out on the balcony and shout "America first, America alone." just as a proud American. But are we going to see that? Probably not.
No, we'd probably get another encyclical on Americanism is probably what we would get. We're almost out of time here with Nicholas Cavazos, the traditional Thomist. Nicholas, if you can come back in the after show, maybe we can continue the conversation, because I can imagine right now people are screaming, but we're in a pluralist society. What do you mean, Christian? Like, you remember the good old days when politicians had to be Christian in order to serve on office? Should we do that again? At the very least, I think so. But maybe we'll pick that conversation up in the after show. Nicholas Cavazos, I'm grateful for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain, and here are your headline news. CNA reports Pope Leo XIV discusses Gaza and two-state solution with Israeli president. Pope Leo XIV received Israeli President Isaac Herzog in a private audience at the Vatican yesterday morning. According to a Vatican statement after the meeting, the talks focused on the political and social situation in the Middle East and the need to guarantee a future for the Palestinian people and peace and stability in the region, with the Holy See reiterating the two-state solution as the only way out of the ongoing war. Just the news reports. Trump urges Europe to stop buying Russian oil. President Donald Trump yesterday urged European leaders to stop purchasing Russian oil and to help him pressure China, likewise into a bid to gain leverage to end the Ukraine war. Trump participated in a call with European leaders and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss the faltering effort to broker a peace. Despite a multitude of global sanctions, the Russian economy has persevered, leading Trump to pressure secondary tariffs on its commercial partners. And Catholic Vote reports Colorado bishops warn against dim lawmakers' agenda. After reviewing the state legislature's August special session on the state budget, Colorado's bishops found lawmakers in the Democratic-dominated state are moving towards higher taxes, more abortion funding, and unsustainable living conditions. You make your bed, now you got to lie in it. And those are your headline news. I don't know if you guys caught this or not. Of course, I'm going to be linking to everything in the show notes for you today. But Cardinal Cupich came out with an article over at ChicagoCatholic.com, Tradition versus Traditionalism, which I found also very, very entertaining. We're going to link to it in the show notes today, along with Return to Tradition. Dr. Anthony Stine is back on the team today, Fridays with Stine. Good morning to you, Dr. Stine. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. And who knew that Cardinal Cupich was a writer of historical fiction?
It's great. I mean, this is good stuff. I just want to start with, okay, so in the article, the first sentence, the late Jaroslav Pelikan, a historian of Christianity, made an important distinction that is helpful to remember. Tradition is the living faith of the dead. Traditionalism is the dead faith of the living. And I thought right away, if I were a prince of Holy Mother Church, potentially papably, I could be, a pope someday. I would, of course, quote from Jaroslav Pelikan, because all other, Christian historians were apparently taken and not available. I mean, Jaroslav Pelikan, why not?
Yeah, I'm not even familiar with him. I'm assuming he's not even a Catholic.
Well, he wasn't. No, he was a Protestant scholar. His dad was a Protestant, and then he and his wife converted to the Orthodox. After meeting JP2, they went Orthodox and died Orthodox. So there's that. So out of all the church historians, Jaroslav Pelikan is the one Cardinal Cupich chooses from. I think that's very telling, don't you?
How do you feel being called faithless, though? Because that's what that is. I mean, the dead faith of the living, so that's calling people faithless.
Yeah.
That's brazen. That is brazen. And it's I note this morning in my live stream that this seems to be another sign that for whatever reason, a lot of the more progressive wing of the American prelates feel emboldened right now. For whatever reason, they feel like they can go and say and do things that are just brazen. Heard the news out of Charlotte where they're coming after now reverent Novus Ordo masses and, of course, traditional masses at Catholic schools, right? I mean, they're going everywhere it can be found. The bishop there is taking care of it. It just seems brazen. So I don't know, but Cardinal Cupich calling an entire sector of the church, a very vocal sector of the church, faithless, that's impressive for a cardinal.
In the article itself, he seems to me, and I want to get your take on this, because it seems to me he's doing a little bit of bait and switch. He starts off talking about John Henry Newman, and he says a key factor in his decision to join the Catholic Church was his understanding of the development of doctrine. You know, that now that John Henry Cardinal Newman's been named a doctor of the church. So it's all about development of doctrine. But he goes on, and then he quotes St. Vincent of Lerins. And he says, whatever develops at a later age was already present in seminal form. There was nothing new in old age that was not already latent in childhood. And as I was saying yesterday with Hitchborn, like, I hate to admit this publicly, but I agree with Cupich. Yeah, okay. Everything was there already. It was prefigured in the old, the entirety of the New Testament, the entirety of the church today, all of it prefigured in the Old Testament. It was always there, and now it's clear. Where it was not so clear before, it is clear now. This is St. Augustine. We agree with this. So he sets up this sort of like this principle in the beginning half or the most of this article. These principles, everything was already there. Now we understand it more than we ever have before. And then all of a sudden we get the plot twist. We get the punchline, and he gets into the liturgy. And he's like, well, you know, they corrupted the liturgy, right? Back in the Carolingian and the Baroque phases of history, they added all this stuff. And I'm convinced, he says, that the bishops approached the reform of the liturgy as an exercise in taking responsibility for the correct development of the church teaching as manifest in the way we worship. In many ways, he says, the reform was a recovery of truths of the faith, which over time were obscured by a series of adaptations and influences that reflected the church's expanding relationship with secular power and society. So the church messed it up, Dr. Stine, back in those days. And now the church has got it right. Seems like we're talking out of both sides of the mouth here.
And I'm trying to find the specific anathema from the Council of Trent. But there's an anathema from the Council of Trent that basically says if you say that the Mass, the Holy Mass of the Church, leads to impiety among the laity, you let him be anathema. And I was reading that article and going, did Cardinal Cupich just excommunicate himself with this article? Because he basically is saying the letter that the traditional Mass leads to impiety. And I mean, his entire article, though, resting on that Carolinian stuff, was debunked 3 years ago by Dr. Peter Kwasniewski, who was probably not the first to debunk the stupid idea. But he shared this on Facebook, and it's truly amazing because what you see here is essentially a differentiation between what the Mass is and our understanding of the kingship of Christ. It is fitting that there be royal elements at the Mass. We are honoring Christ the King, after all. Mm. And yet he decries this because for him, the Mass is a community gathering. That's what it is. A community gathering, first and foremost. You see it in his language there and in other things. This isn't the first pot shot he's taken at traditional Catholics over the traditional Latin Mass. That's why it almost feels like he's setting people up for something. He's getting ready for people to, I don't know, for some further thing happening. I don't know. It could just be more things in his diocese. It could be that he's going to sweep away the last of the traditional offerings there. Not saying he's going to, just don't be surprised. Because, again, there is just this concerted action going on among some of the more progressive bishops to make the traditional Mass as hard to get as possible in their diocese, almost as if they're trying to push people into the arms of the SSPX, which I'm not against the SSPX. So but I know that a lot of people either are, or maybe they're not, but they're uncomfortable with them. So they may not want to go to Mass with them. And I understand all those things, but it does look like some of these guys are trying to push faithful Catholics into stepping into being credibly called schismatic, which is unfortunate.
I also just don't think Cupich's argument passes the smell test. On one hand, he's like, listen, we can't trust the church who added these things in the Carolingian and Baroque periods. But we can also trust the church when they decided to throw everything out and create something new based off of on a napkin to start with and give us a whole new missal. It's like, well, I'm sorry, but based on what principles are we supposed to decide when and when we can't trust the church? It's literally bizarre.
His article is also banking on the idea that 99 to the 9.9% to the 10th power of the readers of that article have never read St. Vincent of Lerins. Because anybody who's read St. Vincent of Lerins knows that the commentary, which is where those quotes come from, actually shreds the entire position of Cardinal Cupich. Because the entire work is premised on the argument that if somebody in the church, regardless of the office they hold, whatever position they hold, if they introduce novelty into the church, that you are to resist them, to cling to what was handed on to you from antiquity. And he wrote this in the 4th century or the 5th century in the face of the Arian heresy, when 80% of the Catholic bishops were Arians and the popes of the time were not super strong against them. In fact, in some cases, sympathetic to the Arians, if not Arians themselves. So again, if you read St. Vincent of Lerins, it's very curious that he cites him because he's banking on you never reading him. So I would suggest to people, if you would like to read writings of the Church Fathers about things that are kind of relevant to the questions we have about the church today, go buy a copy of this book, The Commentary. All you have to do is go onto Amazon.com and type in St. Vincent of Lerins, and you will find the commentary for cheap. If you can read the New York Times without difficulty, you can read that book. I would suggest you read it. Or if you don't like to read and you can handle my reading of it, I have it in full on my channel in small video form. It took me a year to do it in 10-minute chunks. Either way, I first tell you to go buy the book and read it yourself. And you will find it is not exactly the ringing endorsement of changing things in the church, especially if you put that into the context of things some popes have said in more recent years, like Pope Pius XII, who told the faithful that if anybody is looking to antiquity, to ancient practices, to resurrect ancient practices of the church and her wisdom, let go away, that they are engaging in antiquarianism or archaeologism, and that's an error. He didn't call it a heresy, but the way he described it was, if it wasn't a heresy, it at least makes a heresy easier. But most people reading Cardinal Cupich are not reading those things. That's why he gets away with that stuff.
One of the other things that triggers me about Cardinal Cupich's article is his emphasis on active participation. Buzzwords. He says one could easily read the bishop's constitution on the sacred liturgy, Sacrosanctum Concilium, as a correction of these Carolingian and Baroque liturgical adaptations through a restoration of the liturgy's original emphasis on active participation by the laity and a noble simplicity. And you know what gets me about that is, where in the early church do we find references to the liturgy needing to have an emphasis on active participation? I don't remember. I read so much of the early church for the first few centuries just on my own journey to become Catholic, and I can't remember a single passage to that end. On where do they get this active participation from?
You won't find it, even though Pope Pius X was worried about this too, but his idea of active participation was that the faithful should be praying at the Mass.
Amen.
Right.
And we should be.
Right. But you might be aware that at one time in the Latin West, there were these things called rood screens up, where you could barely see what the priest was doing at all at the altar, because it's not a performative thing. The Mass isn't performative. It's not entertainment, and it's not a community event. It's the holy sacrifice of the Mass. There's supposed to be an air of mystery about it. And why a lot of, if you are lucky anyway, you can find a traditional parish that still has a baldacchino over the altar. Or in some places, you'll still find more of these older accoutrements. And in the East, they still have rood screens, at least in some parishes.
If you enjoy what we do here at A Catholic Take, or any of the programs that we offer at the Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network, well, then I would be really grateful if you would consider supporting our upcoming 2025 fall appeal and help fund our apostolate. There's lots of ways you can do that. If you got a letter from us in the mail, you could simply return that. You could donate on our website, thestationofthecross.com, our iCatholic Radio mobile app, or you can even call the studio weekdays 8 to 5 p.m. Eastern, 877-711-8500. But our on-air appeal is coming up, and I would be really grateful if you'd pray for the provision for our financial needs. We're having a conversation with Dr. Anthony Stine from returntotradition.org. We're going to link to it in the show notes about Cardinal Cupich and his article on tradition versus traditionalism. Dr. Stine, welcome back. I do want to offer this last little piece of this article, which I found very interesting. He's quoting from Pope Francis here, and this was on a trip to Canada in 2022. He says, quote, "A church that does not develop its thinking in an ecclesial sense is a church that is going backward. This is today's problem, and of many who call themselves traditional. No, they are not traditional. They are people looking to the past, going backwards." So he goes on. He says, in a word, the true understanding of Catholic tradition provides the church with the capacity to witness to the gospel in new contexts. And I think there is the crux of the whole thing. So in the first half, he's like, hey, there's nothing new. Everything was already there. We just understand it better. John Henry Newman, Vincent Lairns, everything was already there. We just now understand it better. And now, by the end of the article, you get, don't look backwards, look to everything new context, new. I mean, absolutely, like they're looking for their get-out-of-jail-free card to justify whatever they want. That's what it seems to me. What say you? I'm not getting your audio, Dr. Stine.
There we go. More proof, as I was saying earlier, that they assume you haven't read St. Vincent of Lerins, because new is exactly what St. Vincent of Lerins is warning you about in that book. This is why you have such an emphasis on this idea that another idea you hear commonly said is that the church fathers wanted communion in the hand, and because they cite Tertullian.
Does it say that?
They cite Tertullian, right? I think it's Tertullian. Make a little cup out of your hand, or whatever it is they say. You can find other church fathers who categorically rejected that. Categorically. Right. So again, if you're wanting to know what a lot of the most ancient practices look like, actually the East might be where you want to look. I'm not saying, in Rome they're using the rite of St. John Chrysostom, but I would imagine that the ancient masses didn't look terribly different than St. John Chrysostom's rite, honestly. But it's evident that they are assuming that most Catholics don't have the time for this stuff, and so they don't read it. They don't pay attention, and they can just say whatever they want. And I don't know why they latch onto St. Vincent of Lerins, other than that he is essentially an apostolic father or a church father anyway, who was clearly in favor of the development of doctrine. He didn't reject doctrine and practices developing and changing naturally over time, but he did reject novelty. And we live in an age of novelty in the church. Yeah. It's undeniable. We are in an age of novelty. It's why St. Vincent of Lerins is possibly one of the most important fathers of the church for people to read today.
Wow.
He will debunk all the arguments from progressive types in the church, all of them. I'm not saying he'd be a big fan of the traditionalist movement. Who knows? But he at least would reject novelty. And you are, according to St. Vincent of Lerins, to cling to what was given to you, to hold on to the same faith that was believed in ancient times. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. St. Paul
said, hold fast to that which was handed on to you by word of mouth or by letter, to hold fast to tradition, St. Paul writes. Mm-hmm. But, it's interesting you mentioned Tertullian as a reference, one of their references. Tertullian, if you ever read The Flesh of Christ, it is like a sledgehammer. I mean, he says, if you don't believe that Jesus Christ is truly present in the Eucharist, you're not even a Christian. Let that sink in for how many Protestants that deny that doctrine. Tertullian, writing in the 200s, said you're not even a Christian if you don't hold that doctrine. It's amazing to me. And then, of course, he died a heretic. So that's the guy that they're going to quote, is that guy. Mm-hmm. I find that utterly fascinating. But the other aspect...
anti-ecumenical guy.
Right, the very much anti-ecumenical guy, which is funny to me. But Pope Francis's quote here also has a little nugget that I picked up on, and that he says, a church that does not develop its thinking in an ecclesial sense is a church that is going backwards. Well, let's talk about ecclesial sense. The ecclesia, the church, has one mission. That mission is to convert all souls, to make disciples of all nations, to baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. That was the command Jesus gives in the end of Matthew's gospel. So our mission should be about the conversion of sinners. And yet, so much with this novelty that we see from these hard left-leaning bishops and cardinals is that's the one thing they don't want to do, is make disciples of all nations. Don't you?
That would be that would seem to be what they should be doing. This is why I am 6 years removed now from the Pachamama debacle. I am still flabbergasted that at the Pan-Amazon Synod, there were bishops from the Amazon region who bragged that they had never baptized an indigenous person and never will.
Right.
Completely flabbergasted by this.
Absolutely insane.
Jesus' command was to spread the gospel and to baptize people. It's in plain language.
So, I mean, the ecclesial sense, the ecclesia, is to convert, and that's the one thing they're not doing. So, I mean, Cardinal Cupich, God love you, my brother, but I mean, I don't know that that word means what you think it means, tradition. I really, really don't. And it seems bonkers to me. I do want to switch topics while I still have a couple of minutes left on the radio side of our equation. But His Holiness met with the president of Israel, and I found it interesting, given that we were talking, not you and I so much, but on the show this week, we talked so much about Cardinal Leo meeting with Father Jimmy Martin and the optics of that and the meaning of that. I found that interesting because Pope Leo, of course, accepted the meeting with the head of state, and this guy, or Israel, his team anyway, put out a statement saying, yeah, we came because they asked us to, and the Vatican corrected that yesterday. They sent out a statement saying, nope, that's not how it went down. They asked us for a meeting, and of course we said yes because that's our standard practice, is to say yes to the heads of state. So that's what we did. Now, what do you make of that?
I mean, even Israel's biggest supporters have critiqued them for being not the most forthright and honest with things going on in conflict. So this doesn't surprise me. It might explain why the photo of the Pope meeting with that president was he looked very dour. He did not look pleased at all to be meeting with him. The look on his face compared to the photos you've seen of, say, him meeting with James Martin or anybody, really. He just did not look pleased in the slightest to be meeting with that president. And it might be the case because, or might give you good reason, because they do have a track record of bending the truth or omitting things in a large way to fit whatever narrative they're pushing at the time. And it's unfortunate because that conflict we need the truth out there without question, because that conflict is one of the great moral questions of our immediate time.
Yeah, I found it very, very interesting. I also found it great that the Vatican issued a clarifying statement. Let's have more of that, please. More, please. I would like that. Like, say, after the Jimmy Martin one. Let's try it there, too. It'd be great. That music means we're out of time on the radio side. We'll go into the after show and continue the conversation. Praise be to God. Dr. Stine is here. We're going to have Nicholas Cavazos back on, and whatever you want to talk about. And I'm sure producer Jake is stirring up trouble in the chat box. We can get into that too. Monday morning, Laura Phelps is back. Mike Koniger is back, and you are back. So see you then. Join the email list. Get the email from me tonight at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. God love you and God bless you.
And we're back. Welcome to the after show, everyone. And if you can believe it, it's Friday once again.
Why are you giving away the boxes like that?
That's not a box. I didn't put that as a box.
It's a freebie. Yes, you did.
I didn't put that as a box because then you would just get it every Friday, and we can't just do that.
I thought it was on the list. If you can believe it, it's Friday. It was on the list.
Nope.
It's not on the list?
It's not.
Are you sure?
I can't believe it's not Thursday.
I can't believe it's not butter. Good morning, everybody. Praise be to God.
Gang's all here today.
Who's all here today? The gang?
Yeah.
The gang is back?
It's turning into a gang. Nick, Dr. Stine, you, me, everyone.
Praise be to Jesus for it. Welcome back, Nicholas Cavazos. I see you there. The three amigos, says John Paul Stein. By the way, John Paul, did you ask for Father Murr? Call the guy. Tell him to return my call. That'd be great. I've asked him to be on. He just, I don't know. Maybe his health isn't the greatest or whatever. I'm not sure. I'm praying for him, though, but we haven't been able to get him back on. Not sure why. Jane, good morning to you. T Storm, good morning to you. Paul, our friend from Buffalo. Jack is back. Good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out. Trad Jack, Bird and Tweed and Toe, of course, as well. Let's see, scrolling backwards. Jen Nugent, good morning to you. Jen Damon, I see you there. Praise be to Jesus. Low Key is back. Mary, good morning to you. You are amazing. Praise be to God. JP, good morning. Sci-Fi, good morning to you. Nick, the mic, Ave Maria to you, my friend. From sunny South Texas. Eileen, good morning to you. Praise be to Jesus. Thank you for all being on the team. James 16897. Anthony, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being on with us. KZ2, Robert DeBruce, Gogrenza. I see Patty there from the rolling, beautiful hill country of Texas. Good morning to you, Donald Paddock. Good morning, Angelique from Hunt. How is Hunt doing, by the way? Is Hunt recovering? I haven't heard a word about the post-floods thing. Is everything getting back to, air quotes here, normal? June Ybarra from West Texas. A lot of Texans on the team today. Good morning to you. Is that just because Nicholas Cavazos is back? Is this like the Texas fan club that we're talking about here? Because you're from the hill country too, right, Nick?
Yes, sir. Here my whole life.
Your whole life. How long is your whole life, by the way? What are we talking about?
Almost 28 years.
You are old. Holy smokes. You're 28. I want you to sit down. You could break a hip at this point, okay? So you just got to take it real careful.
28. He's just a
28.
kid.
He's just my
you got
lawn.
to start using phrases like "back in my day."
Yeah. I just turned 30. I can use that phrase
now. You can
now.
refrain from some of the older, from some of the older guy kind of phrases. Yeah, but that's your entry one. Is "back in my day."
I've been using that for like 5 years, ironically,
Yes.
for a while. So.
Back in my day, you really know you're old when you start wearing shorts with black socks. That's when things really get interesting in life. You've really arrived at that point. Alexandria Hall, good morning to you from STL. Is that St. Louis? Praise be to God. Ave Maria to you. That's amazing. Gregory, Roseanne, good morning to you. Napoleon is back. Who's a baby? Nicholas is
Napoleon's
a baby.
back? Finally.
Napoleon is back. Make Napoleon great again. Make Napoleon great
He
again.
died in the good graces of the church.
What was I going to say about that? Anyway, Root Dog is here. Root Dog. It's an interesting name. Do your parents love you? I'm just asking for a friend. Good morning. Because would you name your kid Root Dog? Good morning, Joe. I saw you on the background of a video on TikTok at an FSSP parish. Really? That's awfully interesting. Like TikTok. Can anything good come from TikTok? Hopefully.
Just saying, Joe. I'm just saying, if you want to increase your membership with some of the youths, which might be a good idea. I don't know. They'll probably at least have Jake put something up on TikTok.
The show will never do that.
I'm actually, it's funny, but in like, what is it, 2 days or so, I think? Yeah, on Monday, I'm going to be going on with a bunch of the guys from the Trad Roundtable. So I think, yeah, Anthony Stine, you're going to be there, as well as a couple other gents. And I'm going to be talking to them about why I think that traditional Catholicism is losing the fight, at least when it comes to the online sphere. I've been kind of railing about this.
I saw you say that. So you basically torched your entire audience with that one video. Good job, Nicholas.
Yeah, I purposely flamed everybody, but it's true, because the thing is that like most trad blogs, let's be honest, like you click on the trad blogs and it's one of two things, this really like hyper aggressive take on the papacy, which some of it's warranted, mind you, or B, it's like, here are 4 customs from the 16th century that you can integrate into your family life. And it's like the average Catholic out there, especially the average young Catholic, is so detached from where most like trad influencers are, and they're all going to like the fairly bad like e-Catholic influencers. And so trads need to actually, if they want the movement to grow, which is what they rationally should want, then they need to actually start investing into some social media.
I don't know about TikTok.
You're leaving out a lot of the other problem too, which is my favorite, is when a traditionalist or a traditional adjacent middle-aged commentators like, oh, I'm not listening to anything you have to say, Mr. Anonymous account responding to me. You're being blocked because that makes you a coward. I'm like, you are just going to just torch any credibility you have taking that position with younger people. Oh, now you're ranting against video games for like an hour. Okay, you're alienating younger people. Not every video game is the same, and I can make the same arguments you're making against playing video games against any hobby, because it's entirely possible to turn any hobby into a gravely disordered thing you're doing.
Fully agree with
again,
you. Yeah.
I'm totally amused by a lot of the stuff that you see going on online, because while younger people seem to be going into traditional masses and things, there is more than the mass that makes somebody a traditional Catholic. After all, and some people get shocked when I say this, there are some traditional parishes, mostly FSSP or diocesan parishes, that are kind of well known in the traditional world for being the kind of place where you scratch the traditional Catholic who's in the seat or in the pew, and they're going to be bleed Marxist red. We know of the left cats who with good taste in liturgy. They exist and are not as small a group as you might think. But you have to spend a lot of time online to have encountered these people. And you want to just make sure that your young people coming into the traditional movement don't merely have good taste in liturgy, because the problems we face in the church are much more than just the liturgy, which is also why I don't know exactly what I think about all this trad ink talk going on right now, but I will say people dismissing it out of hand is an extraordinarily bad idea. It's an extraordinarily bad idea, because
I just want to know, how do I join the trading? Because I didn't get a memo, I didn't get an email, no text messages. Okay, I didn't get any.
Well, according to the thinking of the people, according to the logic, it would mean that you're not part of Trad Inc. because it's invite only. There's an allegation now that Cardinal Burke is the one who's chairman and CEO of Trad Inc. or whatever. Right. I don't know. I don't follow it that closely, but all I'm telling you is it's more than the liturgy. It's doctrine, it's ecclesiology, and you got and to turn it into the trad LARPer thing, which is, we all got to get our tweed jackets and our smoking pipes or our cigars, and we got to make it more of an aesthetic than an actual than something much deeper than that.
Dr. Stine, we all know you're posting your mass fit pics on Instagram every Sunday. Come on now.
Mass fit pics. Oh my gosh.
Pretty sure
that's
Dr.
the flip
Stine
side of the coin. That's the other disordered thing is in all the people. Look how modest I am, they say as they take a selfie. That is very immodest and oftentimes a sexual undertone.
Michael Thomas makes
when you start talking about that, you start getting into the topic of women's modesty.
Yeah.
And
you get yelled at.
Boy, I may as well just go grab that third rail and give it a big hug.
Yeah. You're gonna get zapped.
Bro, bring up the controversial topics and just speak freely, because then that's where you actually get views and real conversation going. Otherwise it's Catholic, very scripted. We may as well name the show.
Very scripted.
Not to offend our ecumenical gathering here with our SSPXer friend, but Michael Thomas points out that
all are welcome, Jake. All are welcome.
Yes, exactly. Well, of course, that's why I told Nick to come back for the after show.
Okay. Just go get your Oregon Country Press hymnal out.
But Michael Thomas has a fascinating comment here, a little shocking probably for some people. At his SSPX chapel, they had a coven of witches for years.
Why?
What?
Yeah. And I think his point is great. His point is great that just because you have the aesthetics, and you can even have you might even have a solid priest, or maybe not, but you might even have a solid priest, and you can still have a section of that community that is just off the rails, off the deep end.
Can you clarify?
Trads. The point is,
understand what you just said.
Trads are not immune to
what did you
the modern
say?
world.
Hold on. I need to understand what he's saying to me. Jake, you said there was a coven.
Michael Thomas will quote verbatim from Michael Thomas. We had a coven of witches for years at our SSPX chapel.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
One of the main reasons I left. Trads aren't immune from the modern world. Unquote.
What does that mean, Jake?
What do you
They
mean?
attended mass there? Like they hung out like everybody else, and but they got discovered as a coven of witches?
Clearly, yeah.
That's what that means. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wild.
Yeah, actually, it is interesting that he brings that up, that comment, because I've seen on Instagram maybe a half a dozen times now or so, as well as have friends who have come into contact with the like-minded individuals who have ran into people who love the TLM, but are all into tarot cards, all into like Wicca. And what it is for them,
wild.
They see TLM as kind of like an aesthetic expression of old Europe. They can go somehow hand in hand with, you know, the paganism of old Europe. And so point that Dr. Stine brings up that's absolutely true is that a lot of young people on Instagram and TikTok, they see the aesthetics of tradition. So they're like, oh, cool, I love the incense. Oh, cool, I love the reverence and all of that, right? That's great that you love that. But the problem is that's as far as tradition goes for a lot of people. Because simultaneously to that, all of the people they're following on social media are all of the modernists who are smart enough to actually have social media and actually have a social media game. Whereas the trads are sitting back in their tweed jackets talking about, did you know about this Baroque century custom that we can integrate? And it's like, that does not help any Gen Z young man who is struggling with his self-identity in this distorted, horrible leftist world. It doesn't help him at all.
Yeah.
And so what so many guys could do is they need to like get off of Boomer Book, right? And they need to get on Instagram and they need to get on TikTok.
Wow.
That's what they need to do.
Scorched earth here. Like what? What did the boomers do to you?
Kennedy,
Get
you
off
only
my
saw
lawn.
Kennedy. Wait a second. Okay, wait a second. Kennedy Hall is in the chat. Kennedy Hall is in the chat.
Hey,
and
can
he
we
says,
stop? And hold on, before you go on,
yeah.
Can we just say, please pray for Kennedy Hall's family?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. But Kennedy says one time he saw a woman going to the SSPX wearing pants and he needed therapy after. Kennedy, every time that ladies from the SSPX chapel come over to the diocesan church, almost every time the young women are wearing pants. Okay, so this is not a one-time thing. This happens all the time.
Can I just also say, like, when I remember when I first started going to the TLM, and I don't go to the SSPX, I go to the FSSP. I remember, like, just thinking, like, what my expectation was of the trad community going into it, and I almost didn't come back after the first time because it was so loud. Like, it's a small little building. We're cramming people in, standing room only. And like where I was crammed in, it was like loud and obnoxious and not in a way I could prepare for mass. I'm going to go back to the Novus Ordo place. At least they have an excuse for this nonsense. And then I remember like many times seeing like, sports jerseys and tennis shoes and just the same kind of dress code that you would find at any of a suburban Novus Ordo parish. And I'm thinking like, this just makes no sense. What is wrong with you trads? Like, I thought you're supposed to be conservative and, and this is supposed to be different. And it really isn't. And it turns out there's sinners in every parish you go to. And I guess that's why there's long lines at the confessional at our parish as well. But we have a long way to go. Mm-hmm. Mere Kennedy Hall says going to diocesan TLM is like it wasn't like a diocesan TLM. It wasn't.
No, mine. He's talking about mine. So this is like the Amish Rumspringer.
So I don't know what the issue is. And the homilies there were mostly just fine. The only diocesan TLM I've ever been to with a questionable homily was when the priest who was offering the mass spoke Spanish, couldn't speak a word of English. So the parish priest, who was very much a liberal, gave the homily, and it was like the most weird like dichotomy between the most beautiful mass you'll ever go to, and then, hi guys, dad joke, unambiguous, unoffensive homily.
I hate those. Yeah. Oh, those are rough.
But this is yeah, go ahead.
It actually is. It's really interesting that he brings up the dad joke because guess what? Who are some of the most followed priests on social media? Priests who basically act like comedians or DJs. Right. And I'm of the opinion that like priests should just be off social media. right? In the sense of having personal accounts, right? It's one thing to have
the SSPX
a public
famously don't allow their priests to have social media. I suspect the ones who bend that rule do it as just anonymous accounts and never reveal their priests. But beyond that, they're not allowed to have them.
My point is, it's just like, I mean, this is the thing. The Tradisphere is so small and it's so easy to be in our bubble that when you go out and you ask like your average Gen Zer, like, oh, do you know who like Father, David Moses is? They're going to be like, and Gen Zer who's Catholic, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I love his stuff on Instagram. If you run around and say, do you know who Archbishop Lefebvre is? Like, you'll have 75 of them who say, no, I have no clue what you're talking about. And then the rest are going to say something like, oh yeah, he's that bad guy, right? Or he's that schismatic, right? And there's no one to counteract that. But oftentimes, like, this is another issue with traditionalism. Some of our proponents are the worst proponents. They'll go into comment sections and they'll just flame people. You'll see them, like, for instance, like I've been interacting in a charitable way with Matt Fradd recently on the subject of the SSPX, right? And he posted his video to one of his channels yesterday. And so I'm trying to have like academic discussions and charitable discussions about canon law. And then you see some SSPXers who come in there and they're just like, the Novus Ordo anti-Bergoglian church is destroying everything. And you're like, okay, look.
Oh, you've been to our chat too?
Yeah, you're just like, all right, you guys are the worst salesmen for tradition ever, because your average like 16-year-old guy who converted to the faith is like, what the heck?
Preach it.
The only ones that are worst are like the very online Eastern Orthodox guys.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Where they just lead with insults.
Yeah, that is right. They might actually be worse. But this is actually Kennedy started to make the point that I wanted to make, which is that you should be striving to be normal. Not normie, but you should be striving to be
just
normal.
Catholic.
That's the thing. It's like,
just
yes, you can. I'm not opposed to using shorthand, like calling the traditional Latin Mass the TLM. Like, okay, maybe that's not the most accurate, abbreviation for what it is or whatever like that. I've heard arguments about that. It's fine. It works. TLM.
True Roman rite and everything else is fake.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
Mass.
It's like, but it's easy shorthand. TLM, trad, things like that. It's fine to use the shorthand, but really we should be striving to just be living Catholic lives and being Catholic and striving to be saints. And it's not just about, an aesthetic. It's not just about a based sermon, and listening to a based sermon and then going online and yelling at people for not listening to that based sermon, which is what Nick was making that point about.
How dare you wear a top to mass that the sleeve goes slightly above the elbow?
Yeah, exactly.
You guys don't have ushers with tape measure at the door? That's how we take care of that business right there. A little tape measure action.
Exactly. Yeah. But the traditional parishes are the veil police.
Yeah, the veil police. Exactly.
They always pounce on the newcomer, right? They always do.
Yeah, I've heard a story. I can't remember if it was on this show or someone was telling it to me in off the air, but about this lady who literally threw a veil at someone into the pew who wasn't wearing one. Like, she just walked past and like tossed a veil at her, and it's like, good grief, people! Like, this is like
that's a great way to be welcoming to people.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is like,
all are welcome.
And I made this point in the insider chat. Don't assume that someone else knows everything. And this includes people who you think should know better, like, people who are in charge of a diocese. I was just talking to a friend who basically said that the people in charge of vocations in our diocese did not know who Bishop Schneider was. And when they heard that someone had been ordained a subdeacon, they got minor orders, ordained a subdeacon by Bishop Schneider, totally legitly in a different diocese, the people in this diocese, the people in charge, of vocations and seminarians and things, were like freaking out that this was some kind of like SSPX thing, or maybe even like a full-on schismatic, like took line, like whatever, like nonsense, old Catholics. They had no idea who he was. Like, and here in the Tradisphere, it's like, Bishop Schneider, he's a saint, he's going to be the next pope. We want him to be pope. Exactly. They had no idea who he was. So don't assume that everyone knows everything that's going on social media, that's going on in the Tradisphere. Be charitable in your assumptions. That's the thing you gotta do.
This is something I complained about for a long time now. I really feel like we should do what we can to recognize the newcomers And because
Yes.
we've all, like most of us, maybe not all of us, some of us weren't born into tradition, and bred with this traditional silver spoon in our mouth. But, we have to figure it out the hard way. And we pick up our missal and we're like, okay, 67 degrees, turn to page 1402. Okay. We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's clear that some people are lost. It'd be nice if there was some sort of a process by which we onboard people into that parish, acquaint them with the liturgy itself, acquaint them with how the missal works, and just give them the lay of the land a little bit so they feel a little bit more comfortable and being there. That would be nice to have something like that.
Well, a part of it is you can't just be what's the wword? Onboarded into the faith. Like I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you that you need. I totally agree with you that you need. Yes, that you need more resources for just those basics of helping.
I'm
people
talking about
out.
just giving them the basics of
course.
Here's what's happening.
Yes.
Here's why Father is facing liturgically east. Here's why you can't hear him pray.
Yeah.
Here's where you're going to respond at the high mass, and here's where you're not at the low mass, and here's why. Just the basic stuff.
Yeah.
And then that way they feel more comfortable, at least with the process, and less awkward the whole time looking around going, I'm the only one who doesn't know the Latin response to this, and just feeling really weird about it.
Of course. But
by the way,
what I'm saying
Tradcat Kansman did point out that the appropriate way to deal with anybody in the chat box is to start out with, quote, "You're a heretic," close quote, and then continue on to make
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So
that's exactly that
good
should be the
advice.
normal greeting. That's the normal greeting from a trad to others.
What we could do if you want to make traditional parishes a little more comfortable for young people, we should do is have a little more synodality.
Yes.
So
see what we started.
I suggest bringing in a smoke machine and maybe some laser light.
Coffee bar out front.
I'm a one-man
This is
smoke
great
machine.
news.
So
this is you are.
If you guys if you guys didn't know, I'm the new host of a new Catholic show online. It's called the Catholic Epic Music Battles, and we did our first episode yesterday on my show between the Mexican, Asian, and the SSPX. It was pretty epic. If you guys want to go and watch that sometime, it's pretty epic. But here's just a really basic thing that I learned when I was an evangelical that no trad parishes that I've ever been to do. Whenever I was an evangelical, right, I'm not saying all of this is right, but we rolled out the wagon for newcomers. What I mean by that is when you're walking up, we had tons and tons of greeters outside, not in a weird way where they come up to you in a really forward way and greeting you, but just saying hello as you walk through the door, something like that, right? There was an invitation that was friendly at the beginning. It was good morning, everybody. Happy you guys are here. We're going to now enter into this. It wasn't cheesy. It wasn't corny. It was just very much so acknowledging your presence. And then they begin. Okay, take that and now look at your average SSPX parish. I have a friend of mine who's a fallen away Catholic who just became observant again, right? She's going to the SSPX. She's for the last month now, I've been going to the SSPX, right? I think it's been 6 months, excuse me. She's there's always a guy near the door. I always say hello to him and good morning. He's never responded. No one has ever come up to me afterward. And I'm yeah, if you think about it, most of these SSPX chapels, they're really small, really they could use some work when it comes.
Insular.
They're very insular. Clicky. And it's just if you're comparing the evangelicals to the trads, the evangelicals are way more open and way more greeting. Now, of course, we disagree with their theology. The theology is heretical. But that being the case, that doesn't mean that you need to be this 14th century LARPing insular freak that can't say good morning to people. You know, actually, this is the problem is that young people who are new, all these new converts, they should be going to the traditional masses. But then they show up and no one said hello to me. Yeah. Not one person. Or if I did show up, these people were judging me. And it's okay, we got to do way better. And I think that the reason we need to do better is we need some psychological healing. And what I mean by that is we're so used to just taking so many hits from both the church and the world that we need to sit back and say, there's this thing called the charity of Christ. Have we meditated on the charity of Christ towards me? Have I meditated on the charity of Christ toward others? Therefore, I need to go out and love others.
Yeah. I don't blame people who've been doing this for, 20, 30, 40, 50 years or whatever who've been going through the ringer. I don't blame them for feeling bitter or feeling defensive about the TLM, about the traditional faith. I don't blame them at all. But you can't use that as an excuse to just, indulge your basest kind of tendencies to, not be pleasant and just yell at people and make uncharitable assumptions. Nice. Yeah, you actually have to imitate our Lord, believe it or not, to get to heaven. And I'm totally with the people who have mentioned, Nick just described an introvert's worst nightmare. If I go to a strange church, I like to just hide in a back pew and be quiet and not have anyone come up to me. But there's a difference between, people, like you see this at a lot of Novus Ordo parishes. Oh, everyone who's new to Mass this Sunday, stand up and we'll all welcome you with a clap and everything like that. Like,
that's the worst.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the bare minimum of greeting people at the door, welcoming people, reminding them, hey, there's coffee next door after Mass, that sort of thing. It's just those basics that are subtle that don't intrude on people, but are open for people to latch onto who need that welcoming, who need to feel like they're entering a community.
You ever been to an Anglican ordinary Mass where they halfway through Mass, they interrupt and they go, who's got anniversaries today? Who's got birthdays? I'm like, we interrupt this liturgy to bring you what? What are we doing here? Like, stop this madness. Can we stay focused? It's just the most awkward and annoying thing, this audience interaction bit during the homily time.
I will say that I am guilty of not being the most super welcoming person at my parish, only because I have a personal rule of keeping a very low profile at my parish.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat a little bit.
I don't like to disrupt things anywhere I go.
Yeah.
I don't, because I don't want to be that, you're that YouTuber guy. I'm like, that's the worst.
That's wise for celebrities like you two, Joe.
Well, I would also say this, too. I would also say this, in my own experience at our parish, I generally like to keep a very low profile. I generally also only really interact with people I truly connect to. Like, I don't just go out of my way to have small talk with anybody. I don't mean any disrespect, I don't even mean to be uncharitable either. I just there's certain people that you connect to, you have great conversation, and I kind of gravitate that way. But a couple of times I've noticed you can tell that person's never been here before, and they are standing there and no one's talking to them, and I've kind of gone up and just hey, how you doing? Are you new here? Where are you from? And just have a little bit of a conversation. But it always feels a little awkward, to be honest with you, when you're doing it. It doesn't feel natural or organic.
Can I just briefly interject with one of the funniest things I've seen in the chat today? Someone with the profile name of 3 Days of Darkness is complaining that we always get bad news. Welcome, 3 Days of Darkness. We love you. And I agree with you. We do always get bad news. It's better to get good news sometimes. But I just thought that was the funniest juxtaposition I've seen so far today. That was great.
I will report good news when it happens, and then I will brace myself for the fact that if I make it obvious in the title and thumbnail that it's a good news episode, that nobody will watch it.
Yes, exactly.
Because it turns out Catholics don't want the good news. People who watch this stuff don't want the news.
Yes, it is what it is.
Catholics, isn't that what Protestants keep saying, is that Catholics don't want the good news?
Most of the time, it has to be earth-shaking good news.
Yeah.
So if, let's say this afternoon, we got word that Pope Leo XIV had James Martin arrested and executed publicly in St. Peter's Basilica after a fair trial for heresy. I don't know what would facilitate this, but I'd be going live the next morning going, praise God. That's a rather extreme response to him, but I guess we're getting 12th century on him. Cool. That would get a lot of views. But any normal good news, I could do a thing tomorrow about the SSPX and the FSSP having huge amounts of seminarian enrollment. I'm sure that article's getting published soon, and nobody will care. It's a two-way street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure is.
But I report the good news when it happens anyway. You got to,
Because a lot of trads, whether they like it or not, they're addicted to depression pornography. Essentially, they're just I just want to see super sad stuff. The sad thing, Anthony, is that if you were to put up some epic video like, Father James Martin executed in Vatican Square, you'd probably see people in the comment section who are like, what is Pope Leo's deep state church trying to do? That this is a false flag.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
was the guy.
What's the modernist 4D chess for why he's doing this?
It's like this.
Yeah.
This is my point on why we're losing the online battle, because it's like this. Anthony Abate, I think it was last year, he went and did a pilgrimage over to Italy with a bunch of the fans from his show, right? Mm. And he had another guy, I'll leave him anonymous, but let's just say another creator, right, who's really well known in Catholic spheres, who also showed up, right? And what he found is that all of his fans were like my age or in their mid-30s, right? And that's the demographic of the people that watch Anthony's show, because Anthony is very much so on Twitter, right? That's his life and his passion is Twitter, and then his family after that. And then
after that, it's true.
But he found that this other gentleman, right, his audience was all in their late 50s, mid 60s, right? Okay, who is going to capture the next generation and actually push forward the traditionalist positions, right? If we're going to be isolated, which is what a lot of us do on established platforms that really are, let's just be honest, they're in, and again, this is no slant to older generations, but they're mostly older people online, then you're never going to capture the youth and therefore actually turn the tide. So many people just like to sit back and think, well, one day we'll have a pope that changes things, or one day, the quote conservative Novus Ordo priest will take over and we'll have the TLM again. And it's like, well, in the realm of hypotheticals, maybe. But you know what would be really helpful is if we had Instagrammers who had millions of followers who were actually putting forward doctrinal traditional Catholic positions.
Instead of dancing videos and challenge videos and all the rest. Yeah, 100%. I do believe you have to use all these mediums.
If you want from the secular or Protestant realm, but I repeat myself, you can go look at Charlie Kirk on TikTok. For whatever reason, TPUSA dominates right-wing TikTok. I was shocked when I found that out.
No, I'm not surprised at all.
His confrontational style that he does, he's very good at a.
Algorithms love that confrontation. Algorithms love the confrontation.
Well, yeah, why YouTube
really spices
why
things
YouTube
up.
dominates with bad news.
Exactly.
Go watch any commentary sphere, and it's always bad news. I'll bet you Pizza YouTube has bad news videos all the time. I don't know how, but I'm sure they do. Okay, that Dave Portnoy guy.
Yeah. About the pizza reviews, is that the one?
Yeah. I bet the negative ones get the best views.
The Catholic world, there is a Catholic Inc. I'm not 100% sure there's a Trad Inc., but I definitely believe in a Catholic Inc. I've seen it, experienced it for more than 20 years now, and it's super clicky. It's just super clicky, and it's really unfortunate. But you kind of reminded me a little. You triggered me a little bit there, so now I got to get into my safe space, Nicholas, because you just triggered me. And I feel very uncomfortable. Can we light a candle and hold hands? Because I just feel very uncomfortable. But anyway, I think here's the reality. God gives us, as St. Paul makes clear in Romans chapter 12, he gives us these aptitudes. And we're expected to use those aptitudes for his glory, for the salvation of sinners. And then, of course, tertiary is for our own benefit. So each generation has to do that. And whether or not a boomer acknowledges it or not is beside the point. The next generation has to get up and get after it. So whether today it's going to be TikTok and tomorrow it's going to be something else, it is what it is. Like Max Colbert, we don't care about the medium as much as about the message. So, if TikTok is a viable option, I just don't like TikTok. I personally don't like that platform. I stay off of it. I'm never on it. I've chosen to focus on the few that I am on. But we all have to help each other, and we all have to collaborate, and we all have to sort of support each other. And not everybody has to be the same, and the same approach, the same style, or the same, but the message has to basically be the same, right? The doctrines are the same yesterday, today, and forever. And that's the part that binds us. But, the approach in the audience, that can differ. That can surely differ. So I'm glad there are people who are, I don't falter Father Schmitz, I think it's really awkward and cringy when people Google over his chiseled chin and good looks. I mean, that guy probably gets harassed all the time. I feel bad for him, actually. It's good to be fat and old. You don't get harassed at all, so which makes it nice. But, at the same time, there are powerful communicators that can reach an audience. And for that, I'm very, very grateful. I just want to see that message have a little bit more meat on the bone. Put a little bit more meat on that bone, right? Like, give us the goods. So, Father David Michael Moses, great. You smile, you got the hair, you can break dance. It's nice. But give us the meat. Give us the goods. Step up and give us the goods. And then that next generation will be impacted in a way that I think will be meaningful and substantive. And not just, meet people where they're at. I don't have a problem with meeting people where they're at. Like I said this week, I don't have a problem with Father Leo meeting with Father Jamie Martin. He's supposed to. He's the Pope. He should meet the worst of the worst and invite them to be Catholic. That would be great. That would be real great.
Just remember, everyone, on that subject, if silence equals consent, that means the Vatican and Pope Leo are in total agreement with Cardinal Burke because they said nothing after his meeting.
Ramon.
Silence equals consent.
Anyway, Jake's stirring up trouble in our audience again. Mm-hmm. Is that a box? I thought it's a box. You should check it.
Oh, there's
Edward
probably
Clancy.
5 boxes that qualify that one.
Edward Clancy, good morning to you. He says, if you want to see a community that is getting it right, look to the Norbertines of Orange at St. Michael's. Yes. Which, by the way, they arrested that crazy dude there yesterday. Mm-hmm. Insane. But St. Michael's is a beautiful place. Alaric, Phoebe, good morning. Cigar Mode is back. Good morning to you. Great, William. How do I say your name? Georgian Williams. How do I say that? What is the right way to? How do I pronounce that? Georgian. Is that how I say that? Williams, welcome. Good morning. Says I'm a practicing Catholic and I have a great sense of humor. Look up Saint Philip Neri. Yeah, I like Saint Philip Neri. Great guy. 3 Days of Darkness again.
St. Philip Neri's biography, if you've read one of his biographies, is absolutely hilarious. I just remember I lived at Clear Creek Monastery for quite a long time and doing a lot of discernment and things like that. And I remember one time we were at table and they're reading through the life of St. Philip Neri. And so, they're singing, they're chanting the book in recno tono. And you just hear, like in a sing-song voice, the phrase, Saint Philip Neri, because of his piety, would bite the chalice. It was so firm that it left indentions into the metal. And you're just sitting there like, how are you not supposed to like spit out your wine and bust out laughing?
Yeah.
I was there last year. And we were having lunch with the community, my sons and I. And they were and I forget what they were reading, but it was not even like St. Philip Neri. It was something more secular even. It was like, and the man had a soda bottle and he had a bowl of grits and he drove a car. Like, it was like, what are we talking about? What are we doing? What? This is so weird.
This reminds me of, we got like this alert on our phones last winter about winter storm warning or something. And I forget what prompted it, but there's a video of me chanting it when doing the psalm tone for the winter storm warning with it was signed by the county comptroller or whatever. And it was really funny how it worked out because it sounded just like, some kind of Anglican service or something.
Ouch.
It was great.
Hey, Memento asks, who was the one on your show who said in October we could see a reverse of Traditionis Custodes? Okay, so that was Mark Lambert from Catholic Unscripted. And what he actually said was he has an Italian journalist, a Vaticanista, who told him, so this is now secondhand information. So the Italian journalist told Mark, and Mark told us that he has it, that there is something in the works. He didn't describe what it was or what it looked like. He just said there was something in the works for October that would deal with Traditionis Custodes. And I asked him, I followed up. I'm like, what does that mean? He did not know. So we don't know. There's just something in the works. Could be good. Could be not as good as we like. I don't know. I have no idea, but that's who it was. It was Mark Lambert from Catholic Unscripted.
The only reason I think that's probably not super accurate is because I think it's too soon. I think if anything comes out,
I don't know.
If anything comes out,
if
anything comes out, I think it'll be around the 5-year anniversary next year.
We gotta wait
till
later. It'd be pretty early for Pope Leo, the unifying type.
Exactly.
That he's trying to be to rock the boat.
Yep.
So, and that's what it would do.
Yep.
any direction you move Traditionis Custodes.
Hold on. Cardinal Burke met with him, and there was silence, so consent.
Exactly.
See? So what I'm getting is it's going to happen in October.
Yeah.
That's the extension of silence equals consent.
Of course. That's how that works.
There you go.
Place back.
You gotta follow logic. This is Thomistic, you know.
Does Vegas have any odds on when Traditionis Custodes is going to get reversed?
Well, I was going to say you don't even need to do Vegas. You just need to change the bingo game into a more interesting game, and
like an office pool or something. Like we do an office
pool.
Yeah, don't place bets on church related things, please.
I know. I'm joking.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
I know.
Trads never get a joke. I'm teasing. Of course, I'm only teasing.
Only funny bone surgery.
Funny bones. James 16897. Good morning to you from sunny Romania. Glad you're on the team. Dave's Jew is back. Dave, now you told us you hardly ever listen to us. This is like the third day in a row that I've seen you in the chat box. I'm starting to think that word doesn't mean what you think it means. That they're hardly ever.
He's just trying to have a synodal dialogue encounter with you, is all.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Yeah, I'm with back to our discussion about welcoming people to the TLM. I'm with Flying Tigers in saying that, you know, what we really need is trads need to discover a new way of being church. I think Flying Tigers is right about that.
Say it again. Hold on. I only caught half of that mentally. What are you saying?
I said trads need to discover a new way of being church.
Trads?
Yeah.
Rob, did you say that? Or
yeah, Flying Tigers. That's exactly what Flying Tigers was saying. Is that?
Tell me you were being sarcastic, please. Please tell me you were being sarcastic.
Yes, he was complaining about that verbiage.
You were speaking in the angelic tongue.
I'm accusing him of
sarcasm.
Actually using it unironically.
Okay, good. Because I got a little nervous there. I'm like, wait, what? I thought I knew Rob. Like,
who assassinated Rob and took his place?
Right. Like, I don't know who this Flying Tigers is, but where's Rob? Bring Rob back. By the way, speaking of October, Rob, are we still on track for our Malachi Martin book in October? Are we going to get that book? Is it going to drop? Are we on track?
December.
What's the deal?
The book is coming out December. It's available for pre-order right now on Amazon. I have it pre-ordered. That's the book that's going to cause a lot of people, if they're honest, to actually have to issue public retractions and apologies over what they've said about Malachi Martin.
Yeah.
Available for pre-order right now on Amazon.
The Father Malachi Martin book by Rob. We're going to have him on the team to promote that book. Hopefully soon, Rob. When are we going to do that? AKC 783. Pope Leo wants us to fast on Fridays for world peace. Doesn't he know there's something even more effective? It starts with a C and has to do with Russia.
So true. That's exactly why.
I remember when Francis tried
argue
it.
That because Pope Francis mentioned Russia in his consecration,
he did.
That obviously it worked, and now we're living in the Marian age of peace.
We are.
We're just
Can't you tell? It feels very peaceful
on the way there.
What do you mean? This feels totally peaceful. I don't know what you're talking about. I remember I was flying to Alaska when that was happening, and I had to pay. I broke down and paid that $10 or whatever it is, get internet access on the plane, so I could stream the audio and listen to the consecration, just so that I would know before I got off the plane whether or not he said the words. Then of course he said Russia. I'm like, oh, of course you did. I wasted my $10. Darn it to bidsies. Will he do?
Also mentioned Ukraine, which is probably why nothing happened.
Yeah. Will Leo do a consecration? Not likely, right? I don't see it. I'm not seeing it.
It's either 2028. It's either 2028 or 2029 that he's going to do it.
You're saying Leo's going to do it?
Yeah, Leo's going to do it. I'm just going off of Father Gruner.
Are you predicting that he's going to be the Pope in the ruined city, according to the official release? Which, by the way, I think is also fake.
I don't know. I just think that he's gonna do the consecration, and I can't remember which one Father Gruner said, but it was 2028 or 2029.
It's very simple, guys. He's from Chicago. Just get some really good Chicagoan deep dish pizza. Go to the Vatican. Be like, look. This isn't simony, Father. It's not really simony. I know it's kind of sketchy, but could you just repeat this consecration prayer and bind all people to say this from now on? Anytime you want, in return, we will give you your favorite deep dish pizza.
Amen.
He says yes. It'd be epic. And, he probably would, because thus far, in my opinion, the most base thing that Pope Leo has done thus far was his comment the other day about we no longer speak in tongues. I busted out laughing. I was just like, yes, the character is officially anathema. Get out of here. Go back to your Protestant land. We don't want any more weirdo showing up here. The weirdos are where the trads are. There can only be one set of weirdos in this church.
Exactly.
And it's us.
I got to tell you, I'll do one better. I'll do you one better. If Leo will do the consecration the way it was intended, saying the actual words that were asked to be said by Our Lady, I will move to Rome and I will open a pizzeria and make nothing but deep dish pizza. And finally, pizza will have arrived on the Italian peninsula.
Guys, you got to hold
that
Joe
is
to
worthy
it.
of eating, because the Italians have no clue what it means to make a pizza. Their pizza is nothing but cardboard and obscure things put on top. It is a train wreck, and someone should save those poor people and give them a true pizza, which is obviously deep dish with a mountain of cheese.
What those Italians need is deep fried chicken. That's what they need.
Brother.
If we were to bring over good Southern food, man,
brisket
that
with barbecue sauce, please, and yes and amen.
I mean, what are grits if not better polenta?
I'm glad to talk about meat on a Friday minutes after we were talking about how the Pope has to fast for peace.
Yeah.
It's a box. It's a box on the AZD bingo.
It is a box.
To talk about especially foods we can't have on Friday, although you can have cheese pizza.
Talking about meat on Friday. That was
but clearly you can't have pineapple and pepperoni on your deep dish cheese pizza.
It's pineapple and Canadian bacon, Joe. Not pepperoni.
Canadian bacon is better. I would agree.
You can have pineapple and anchovies, which
you could.
Probably.
I don't know why, but you could. I don't know why you would, but sure, why not?
When I used to deliver pizzas, I delivered a guy's pizza with anchovies once, and my car smelled like anchovies for like a week afterwards.
That's terrible, anchovies. Man. Friends don't let friends eat anchovies, brother.
I love it.
Hey, Lord of the Rings 25 asks a question. Does anyone have information on the status for permissions for the SSPX to consecrate bishops? Nicholas, you and I talked about this last week, actually. What is the deal with Leo and allowing the SSPX to consecrate new bishops?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that anybody who says that they know, like, definitively the inside scoop outside of, like, the high SSPX people, no one really knows. They're going to guard that secret lock and key. All we can have is, like, you know, informed speculation. And my informed speculation is essentially that if I had to guess, I would say it's more likely than not that he will give them permission to do consecrations. And I say that just because I think that every single leader is a politician, right? In some form or fashion. Pope Leo is a politician. Mm-hmm. And every politician wants to go down as something positive, right, in some form or fashion. Leo's is clear. He put that out from the get-go, which is unity. Now, what is that unity? Again, we'll still have to see fully. But I don't think, especially with all the social media world now and how big the SSPX is worldwide and how big the overall Tradisphere is, I don't think it would be good for him to say no. And I don't think it's realistic that they'll say no, especially after the long list of track permissions that the SSPX has gotten from Rome. It's like they've gotten carte blanche permission to ordain all their priests, regardless of the local diocesan bishop's permission. They've gotten carte blanche to do, of course, confessions. They've gotten a ton of work done when it comes to working with the local diocesan bishop for marriages. Mm-hmm. There is no real reason why they don't have a canonical place aside from just interchurch politics. So what's more likely than not? I don't think another 1988 where it's going to be string along. I think that they're probably, I'm not saying there's not going to be fishy stuff, but I do think that there will probably be permissions granted.
Yeah, if anything, it would probably be, they would probably phrase it in some way of, in the spirit of what Pope Francis already did, working with the SSPX, and knowing that we are working towards a greater unity on the issues that, have come up in the past, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, go ahead and consecrate. I think that's probably the most likely,
I could just imagine him on the balcony. Blah, 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 blah. Go ahead and consecrate. Have a great day.
That's like a Naked Gun bit or something. I can see Pope Leslie Nielsen doing that.
That's right. And then probably farting at the same time and going, "Oh, was that
no,
me?
that's only in the bad one. I'm talking about the original, like the better, like written Leslie Nielsen movies, not the terrible ones."
By the way, our good friend Don Paddock asked, Joe, what does a carnivore pizza look like? Well, that's a great question. It doesn't
sorrow,
look like sadness. It's
mourning,
great. You can use
depression.
You can use almond. You can use almond flour. You can use almond flour to make a crust.
No, almond flour. You said carnivore. You're making your crust out of minced chicken held together with eggs and some Parmesan cheese. And you're topping it with your cheese and your meat. And if you really like protein that much in one sitting, probably just have a protein shake. Honestly.
I've had that exact pizza. My daughter made that for me once with the chicken. She's also done almond flour, which is not pure carnivore, but it's really, really good. Enjoy it. But if you're looking for the best pizza with meat involved, there's a restaurant in Lafayette, Louisiana. The most pious Catholic epicenter of our country is Lafayette, Louisiana. And there's a restaurant there called Dino's. Go to Dino's, ask for the T-Rex. It is amazing. Literally amazing. Best probably meat lovers pizza on planet Earth, bar none. So I would recommend that. By the way, Damon is lamenting that he has no chance at ACT Bingo Blackout today. We are still playing Blackout ACT Bingo today. Because we haven't hit a lot of these topics. So, I mean, I'm sorry, Damon, but there's no way we're going to be talking about some of these things
I'm
today.
sorry that we've actually been having good, substantial, meaningful conversation about important topics to the church and the growth of tradition and the re-embracement of the love of Jesus Christ instead of about 80s movies. But what are you going to do? It's a Friday. It's first Friday.
It's a Friday. But by the way, I told you I watched an 80s movie just the other day. I watched The Green Beret with John Wayne.
There it is. So, make it off check it off your bingo card.
That's what I would. Yeah. So you're welcome. So there was that one. Silent Fire says, I'm SSPX and I'm still so thankful for you all, Joe McClain. Well, thank you for being here. All are welcome. I have to do the orans when I say that. All are welcome. We really appreciate you being here. Praise be to Jesus. Blaine, good morning to you. You guys have to collaborate and write a book and call it Traditional Memoirs. Would that be the title? Traditional Memoirs. Maybe Traditional Memes?
Yeah, I was about to say make a 30-second. Each one of us will make like 10 30-second clips of us saying something trad, and we'll put it out online, and more people will see it. Because unfortunately, people don't read books anymore unless they're
It'd be hard for me to come up with 10 ways to call people a heretic, and without Dude, you're wrong for wearing pants, lady.
Anthony, do you know how viral your meme on Instagram and Twitter is, where you're saying something like, "I'm sure she's a nice person. She's also a material heretic." Like, there's this clip of you saying, and people have clipped this. And they've put captions on it when it's like, me on my first date. It's just like, yeah, I'm sure she's a nice lady. She talks very nice, but she's a material heretic. And I'm like, dude, that's what I'm saying. If people were actually smart, they would be making memes of themselves. Like, one of the biggest Instagrammers that's in the Catholic sphere right now, he's like the only trad, is this guy who all he does is make memes and jocular stuff like that. It's like, that's what people need to be doing. People don't read books anymore, unfortunately.
No. Yeah, that is unfortunate.
So one of the reasons I haven't bothered to sit down and start writing one, because I've seen the sales numbers for a lot of books by some of these Catholic podcasters, and I don't know why they spend the time they do writing the
hundreds
of
hours.
Other than, I've written a book. It was called my doctoral dissertation, and the peer review process is not that different than the fact checking process that your publisher will go through.
Right. If you get a publisher at all. If you get a publisher at all, because your publishers know how difficult it is to get a book sold successfully, and they got to have a return on their investment to be able to continue to operate and employ people. So they're only picking the books that are really going to have the best chance at a commercial success.
This is why so many people self-publish,
right?
And so they don't need to sell their copies.
But this is also why I've chosen. Yeah, I've chosen. I mean, I kind of want to write a book. There's several books I've wanted to write. But I've just never done it for this very reason. Instead, I choose, if I'm going to spend hundreds of hours on a project, I prefer that to be a documentary film. I just feel like it's a better medium. It'll get a more opportunity to be watched or consumed, over the long haul, over years, versus a book, And the other thing is, there's topics that I want to write about There's people who've written way better about that than me. I just want to regurgitate the stuff that I love most. History, scripture, theology of the saints. There's people who do that way better than me, and their books are just going to be better than mine anyway. So I've held off.
Brian, agree with the Nova Sordo book?
What about a Nova Sordo book?
I said Brian Petrie with the Nova Sordo book. Way more intelligent people saying stuff than you. I was just making a joke, but what
was that about? Like, I used to like that guy. I used to hire that guy as a speaker.
We used to be friends, but no more. Taylor Marshall is now my friend. No longer friends with Brian Petrie. If you don't get
Grant Petrie, by the way.
Well, yeah. Well, I was going to say, if you don't catch the meme reference, then that's the problem, But anyway,
point is friendship ended. I got it. I got you, Nick.
See, Jake got it because Jake is he's the most informed person.
I'm young and hip and with it and skibbity and whatever. Yeah.
And skibbity.
But here's the thing: is that you mentioned documentaries, and this is one avenue that's kind of interesting. So you see Substack for whatever reason, like blowing up again in popularity, which I find it actually somewhat hilarious. But also like old Ken Burns style documentaries where it's just like, basically a picture show with audio over it. Yeah. That's also becoming kind of big amongst Gen Zers too, again, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is I've been recording now. There's stuff to be done because they're just massive projects. But the SSPX has all these really good long articles on their page talking about like the state of necessity, why they're not in schism, what Rome has officially said, and stuff like that. So what I've done is I've just gone and audio recorded all of these things, put like epic music behind it, lots of cool photos, and I'm going to release it called the SSPX is not in schism full documentary. It's just going to be this like super cool resource on YouTube available. I'm also taking 3 massive books that criticize the new mass, linking them all together and making a series of documentaries called The Problem with the New Mass. But it's like, look, people are going to actually watch that as opposed to going and reading the book itself. Mm-hmm. And so that's why it's I like your documentary idea, Joe, because it's like more people are going to go to that than read a book. I think if you're going to write a book now, you need to have a good justifying cause, and it needs to be something like, it's required because doctoral dissertation, or it's just something like, it's the pleasure of writing. You're writing your own fiction work and you're just creative or something like that, Yeah. I'm saying if you want to get out there.
Well, I mean, Joe, for example, how many people have made a documentary about Our Lady of Revelation?
There's been a couple. EWTN did one, believe it or not.
There's a problem, too, with doing that particular Marian apparition, which is if you talk to Italians who are familiar with it, they'll tell you that the English translation of the Our Lady of Revelation has been corrupted.
Right. Yeah.
And so
I did have that conversation on the show last year before, forget now, but we did have that. We actually interviewed the lady from Australia that talked about that. I also went to Rome and interviewed one of the journalists who read the original journal of the seer, and he sort of talked about that as well. So that was in my documentary film on the end time. I want to make what I want to do. My vision is to make documentary films on subjects that I think are myths, misconceptions, and do them in a way that are compelling from a Catholic perspective. And I want to do them at the highest possible quality level. So the way I'm looking at things now is on a huge budget level, which I don't have a huge budget, so I don't expect to do these things. But if I had George Soros money, I would definitely do them. One of them, the Cortez one is the big one that I want to do. I want to change what people think about Hernan Cortez. And so I would love to do that one. I would love to walk in the footsteps of Our Lady from birth to her Assumption. I would like to do a documentary just on that subject. I would also like to do a documentary on young Earth creationism from a Catholic perspective. The Protestants lead the field by 1.5 miles on this subject. Yes, we do have the Kolbe Center. I understand. Yes, I know. I have their resources. I understand that, but they're just not doing what the Protestants are doing in the same category. They're investing huge dollars in creating things that are trying to change perception about the timeline of what is taught to people about the creation. So it's like it would be great if we could do that only Catholic at the highest possible quality level.
Or just make memes.
Or just make memes.
Yeah.
Yeah, less interesting to me, but sure. Yeah, that's also an option. I would love. It might be, but that's beside the point to me. This is the stuff that I would like to do.
Yeah.
If I had the money, I would do it, regardless of how effective it may or may not be necessarily.
Well,
I would love to do some of that.
Question for you, Joe. Do you want to? I mean, I can tell you a little bit more about this off air, but do you want to make a redo of Kim Burns' Civil War documentaries with me, but actually make them non-biased?
I would love that, actually. I mean, because we like to geek out on the Civil War here quite a bit, the war betwixt the states, and the complexity of that war not being so black and white. You
mean the war betwixt the Yankees and the Americans?
Well, it's the war of northern aggression, mostly, if we're going to be honest about it. But yeah, I think that would be amazing to really have a meaningful, opportunity to let people see it from a perspective they've never seen it before. South equal bad, North equal good. Well, it's not that straightforward, and we'd love to tell that story. I think that would be amazing. That'd be fun. That would be fun. That'd be so much.
I'll be in contact with you because I do have something that actually is serious that could lend its way to us doing something like that. So I'll keep
that'd be a good time. That would really be a good time. We'd have to travel to the battlefields and we did. I'd want to do it big. That's my problem. See, I think of everything in bigger than it needs to be. Joe, are you saying you're a young earther? Yes, I am, Napoleon. I'm a young earth creationist.
You got to spell it. You got to spell it Young
Youngins.
ERF. Young
Skibbity.
Earth.
I'm skibbity.
Yes. Oh gosh.
Is that the proper use of that term? I don't even actually know. I have no idea.
Just you saying it just seems wrong.
Stop it. I'm base no cap. Do you guys still do this? Is that still a thing? I don't even know.
I think that went away like
this
8
is not,
years ago.
Clip that and put it on TikTok, Nick.
I'm going to put that on there. Like to.
No idea what I'm talking about.
What I want you to do is first say the South was right, and then just do that, and then start screaming off random slang.
The South was right.
And then dab.
No, what you have to do is selectively edit him saying that while reporting on, immediately followed by him reporting on some crime committed by an African American.
Ouch! Now you want to get me? The mob
really
justice.
Canceled.
Pitchforks. No, thank you. Yeah. Hey, Lord of the Rings. You're welcome. Lord of the Rings says the SSBX has so many series crisis.
By the way, my wife would like to correct you about your 80s movie, so you got to take it off of your your bingo card because the Green Beret came out in 1968, not 1980.
See, doesn't count. Doesn't count then.
A cinephile, so
Oh, it's a good film though. I just watched it again the other day.
Making a lot of movies in the 80s.
That was made in the 60s. That was made in the 60s.
Yeah.
My mind is blown now, actually, thinking about that. But anyway, the SSBX has so many series crisis in the church. I'm guessing serious crisis in the church, vocation, series, etc. Do you know if they will consider putting... Okay, so they have series, like content series, on the crisis in the church and vocation series, etc. Do you know if they're going to put that on DVD for purchase? Doubtful, right? I mean,
it would be helpful.
That's why they probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah, that, and I'm also kind of surprised that people still have DVD players and things like that.
I'm a physical media guy. And
what are you talking about?
One thing I've seen is that younger people are starting to get into physical media.
Do, of course. I mean, but you guys do too as well. But you also get like AARP ads in the mail, So it's like it makes sense why you guys
get those yet. So I don't get those yet.
Dang, but, get off my lawn, you whippersnapper. Yeah,
there are guys your age who are physical media YouTubers actually who advocate for people buying physical media. So
no, I'm just giving you guys a hard time. I actually prefer DVDs. It's more of a joke saying that like nowadays so many people just stream from their like Apple TVs and stuff that it's like you would probably lose money by making DVDs.
Exactly.
We went. We had my town got hit by a tornado 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, and we didn't have internet for 2 weeks in my neighborhood. To do my show every morning, I had to go like live stream from some other place, or I had to use a cell phone hotspot to make it work. All my neighbors couldn't watch movies. We couldn't stream anything because during that time. Meanwhile, my kids were watching their, their very carefully curated.
I have a
DVDs
VCR player.
Well, the most important reason for physical media is because streaming companies can just vanish media from the internet, from existence, basically, if you don't own it.
Even if you pay for it, by the way.
Even if you pay for it.
Yeah. You could buy something. You can buy a like a movie on Amazon, buy it. It's now in your catalog. You can stream it anytime you want, but they could choose to take it away, and I guess you don't own it anymore.
Yeah.
You're only borrowing it for a while.
Just like Halo 3, Jake. It was live one day, and then it disappeared.
Speaking of degenerates, speaking of degeneracy, Loki wants to know from Dr. Stine if Pope Leo should send Jesuits to Seattle to convert the people.
No, he should send Catholics to Seattle to convert the people.
Yeah, he should send Catholics to Seattle to convert the people. And he should send Jesuits to go minister to the penguins. That's what he should do.
Convert the penguins.
Convert the penguins. Hey, 3 Days of Darkness asks a tough question. I'm curious, he says. Why does Joe not invite Timothy Gordon or Taylor Marshall? Well, for the same reason I don't invite Mel Gibson, obviously. There you go. That's why. Don't you understand?
Joe, I noticed that that Hunter Biden and Nancy Pelosi have never been on your show. Why don't you invite them to your show?
Well, okay.
If they haven't been on your show, that's because you haven't invited them.
In their defense, though, Nancy Pelosi and Hunter Biden, they've never been asked to be on the show. Whereas, unlike them, Timothy Gordon and Taylor Marshall have both been asked and don't come. So there you go.
So go ask it in their chat 3 days ago.
Timothy Gordon doesn't. I've invited him in the past, and I stopped asking because he doesn't want to get up.
What?
So there you go. He doesn't want to and my rule is you are a male, correct? Well, then you should be able to get out of bed at any time of day that you need to. And one time is not going to kill you. If you get out of bed early, then that's fine too. Now, listen, not everybody has the luxury of an early morning schedule, life, kids, busy, crazy. I get that. I've got 6 kids. I understand the deal. But there's a lot of people that you would be surprised if I told you their names. It's just because they don't want to get out of bed that early. It is what it is. Now, Taylor Marshall, I've interviewed him in the past, several times, but it's been a long time since I've interviewed Taylor Marshall. And there was talk about getting him on the show because he's trying to promote his book. And I haven't seen the book yet. It hasn't arrived. So if we get the book, then we'll probably get Taylor Marshall on the show. And I'd love to have him back, by the way. I would love to have Taylor Marshall back on the show. That'd be good. Praise be to God. But he's kind of one of those guys where in the morning it's not his favorite time. So I don't know. I think it could be hard. The more early mornings can be hard for a lot of people. Joe, didn't you say Taylor Marshall was supposed? Yeah, so that's the plan right now. They're supposed to send me his book, and then we're supposed to book him for the show. Whether or not it still happens or not, I can't say. I don't know, but that was the plan. We'll have to see. Rebecca says, I got it yesterday, waiting for an opportunity to read it this weekend. A brand new book about Christian patriot. Are you going to read that book, Nicholas Cavazos? Seems like it'd be right up your alley.
Yeah, I'm already actually reading it right now. It's pretty good.
Is it?
There's a lot that I agree with. I'm hoping to have him on my show as well to talk about, and I won't ask him to wake up at 5 a.m. our time.
All you podcasters can record it any time of the day, whereas no, my show is live, 7 a.m. Eastern. That's the time, and they're like, oh, do you have any other time slots?
Yeah.
Nope.
Commercial breaks and all of that fun stuff. So, yeah. But I think that he'll probably hop on. I like his book a lot, and I do think that it's going to be a good, important text to help, because one of the issues again with trad communities, and Jake is semi-based on this. He's somewhat based on this topic, but he can kind of take a little bit of a black pill on this. Is that it's they're okay, because America right now doesn't have Louis XIV as leader, it equals bad, and so therefore we must just absolutely diss republics and yada yada yada. Mm-hmm. And it's well, okay, what are we going to productively do to go forward? Well, this book I think definitely does do it. Now, in a critical way, I would say he doesn't go far enough, because in my mind, like, for instance, one of the things that kind of separates me from like a civic nationalism is that Gen Z right now is kind of rejecting civic nationalism, and they're getting much more interested in like an ethnic version of nationalism, which says like, okay, what is an American really? Why is it that like when you look at all of the countries around the world, we see that, you know, the Japanese are very clearly ethnically Japanese. But then when it comes to like European nations and the United States, we're basically just economic zones, or as I call it, the great ATMs of the world, where everyone moves, doesn't assimilate, and wants the money and the benefits. Well, there's a lot of reasons why, but it's partially due to the psychological degradation of telling like European stock people that they're bad. And so I think that Gen Z would probably want from Dr. Marshall an extra step in his 12 steps, maybe 13 steps, which would be, we need to have a recognition that a lot of like what makes an American American flows from the fact that we are all descendants of Europeans. Right? And that doesn't mean you hate other people, but it does mean that you love your own heritage and your own history.
Yeah, you have to embrace it, and you have to prioritize it.
Exactly.
And
who is like God? Good morning to you. Thank you for being an insider. Really appreciate you and your support. Says, I love Scott Hahn, but why did he go on Christopher West's TOB channel and not yours to promote the
why did Tucker Carlson create an account and a show on X and not on, you know, like Blue Sky or Threads? Yeah, it's strange.
Well, I used to be, and kind of still remain a wee bit anyway, a big groupie of Scott Hahn. Scott Hahn played a very significant role in my becoming Catholic. I've loved and appreciated and gotten a lot out of his work and his books. I used to hire him as a speaker a lot when I did full-time Catholic conferences. I hired him. I hired Brent Petrie, a bunch of different professors, scripture scholars, etc. So I've had a lot of experience. I've had wonderful private conversations with him. I find him to be truly amazing. And if you've never really understood salvation history, I think his work is the place to go for that. You're going to understand Scripture in a way you've never understood it before. He's going to open your mind to the Catholic tradition of Scripture interpretation, and he's a great starting point for that. Then you move on to other things like Cornelius Lapide and others, but whatever. But the reason why he doesn't come onto my show is because I'm too much of a hot button. I've rocked the boat too much when it comes to criticism of the hierarchy, calling out all the scandals in the church, criticizing Pope Francis. And, Dr. Hahn is in that category of got to protect my career. And when he criticized, when he barely touched that third rail one time about 3 years ago, was it 4 years ago? Maybe, I forget now. Like he was like, yeah, there's a problem going on. He immediately got a lot of pushback, and, he's like, he learned his lesson. I ain't going to do that again, so even though last year I led a Bible study based on his book, A Father Keeps His Promises for Our Insiders, 13-part series. We went from Genesis to Revelation, giving you the big picture of salvation history, talking about the covenants and how Jesus perfected all of those covenants. Really got a lot out of that Bible study. I reached out. I said to myself, I don't want to do it. His organization reached out to me to promote some other book with a different author. And I was like not all that interested, to be honest with you. But I said, you know what? For the sake of the audience, I'm going to try. And I said, I'll do that. I'll promote that book, but I wanted to get Scott Hahn on because I wanted him to be on with the Bible study to just do Q&A. Just to like let my insiders ask you questions and get a lot out of it. Of course, they said no. Like, no, absolutely not. Can't do that. So it's like there's just... I understand why they're doing it because they're trying to protect his brand from crazy people like me. But at the same time, it's a little bit disappointing because I have absolutely loved his
try
work.
To put him on the spot about the Novus Ordo or Vatican II or something.
None of them. That's beside the point. It's none of them would have done that to him. I like a good comparison to this was Father Chris Alar, right? I reached out to Father Chris Alar. I guess this was last year. I had him on the show. And I reached out to his handler, and I'm like, I want to book him. This video, he just put out this video. I want to talk about that. And their immediate response was, okay, but you can't ask him about the traditional Latin Mass. And I'm like, I didn't plan to ask him about that. Like, if I needed to know about the traditional Latin Mass, he wouldn't be my first person to ask about that. Like, he's not the go-to on the TLM. Maybe I'll ask somebody else about that. I want to ask him about this, which he had already put out. It's like, but at least they I mean, they agreed, and he was on the show. We had a wonderful conversation. But like you can tell, like there's just this concern about putting them in this awkward position where they associate with people that have been so publicly negative, like me. So,
people, if you want me to do the following, if people want me to do spam one
there he is.
in the chat, just spam the number 1 in the chat like crazy for the next 2 minutes. But
what do you want to do? Hold on, you broke up. We didn't catch what you just said. Start over.
I said, if people want me to do the following, everyone just spam a number 1 in the chat for like the next 2 minutes. But here's what we're going to do, right? I'm going to invite Scott Hahn. I'm going to invite Trent Horn, right? And just tell him I want to have this roundtable interview, right? Come to this place. And then I'm going to invite Anthony Stine and Vigano. And I'm going to also invite them. Not tell each other. They're all going to be in the same room with lots of cameras. The doors are going to lock from the outside, right?
Wow.
And I'm going to be in there and be like, all right, guys, we're here to have a charitable, nuanced, very loving conversation about the anti-Bergoglian church. Floor is yours. And I just
Who are you going to have in the room with Vigano and me?
That's the point. That's the point.
And then they turn pale and pass out.
No backing out, Dr. Stine. You're going to get trapped in the Thunderdome. Here we go.
Yeah, that's the point. I'm not, for the record, I'm
80s
not a
reference. 80s reference. That does count, doesn't it? Or is that 90s? That might have been 90s.
I think it's
80s.
90s.
Thunderdome?
Yeah, it might be 80s.
Thunderdome is an 80s movie.
Is Thunderdome 80s?
Mel Gibson didn't make any Mad Max movies in the 90s, as far as I know.
Oh, man. Now I got Tina Turner stuck in my brain. Thanks.
For the
Tina
record,
Turner, that's how you know it was 80s.
Yeah, for the record, I'm not a Vigano fan, but it would just be very
It's
funny.
1985. It doesn't get more 80s than 1885.
You're interrupting Nick's point.
I said
I started it.
To be fair, I'm not a Vigano fan at all,
Sure.
really at all. But it would be funny. It would be funny for the hee-hees and the ha-has to see Trent Horn somehow locked in the same room with Vigano with the live stream going.
It would
So if you guys
definitely
want
be
that,
entertaining.
It would be entertaining.
You know what this is? We're basically this is trad fish tank.
Trad fish
Yeah,
tank.
That's
exactly.
basically what we're doing. Trad fish.
I could just see the color like leaving their face. And
This
when
is-
the doors are locked and they're realizing what's going on here, just the horrid look on their face because you've set them up. Man, I'd feel bad for them. Actually, I would pity them. For that. It'd be sad.
The people who love reality TV would be all over this.
Yes, it'd be like the Squid Games of Catholic world, where like maybe like there's a trap door that opens and they get dropped down to the sharks or something like that. I don't know. It'd be some sort of crazy dystopian Hunger Games thing.
If someone wants to donate to me $100,000, I can do the Catholic Mr. Beast, and we can
There we go.
like cuff Horn up with Vigano for 24 hours. No, actually, let's make it 100 days,
Yeah.
right? For 100 days, these two
100
get handcuffed together in a jail, and if they come out, they both get 500 grand. You
His
guys wanna
wife
do
does
that?
not. His wife is in need of her husband being home right now. Trent can't be gone for 100
Do not
days.
destroy good TV, Joe. This is great
Yeah.
TV that we're talking
No.
about.
If you want someone with entertainment value who speaks English well, you get Father Paul Kramer.
Ooh.
Oh,
Handcuffed to
no.
Trent Horn.
Oh. Oof. What are we doing here? Well, this is devolved. This is really devolved now. Female Casey Royals fan from Nebraska. Good morning. Says, no, you don't want to be of people dropped down to sharks where they could be eaten. But that's the
point.
reality. That's the reality TV part of that. That's you know.
That's the point of a trapdoor to sharks is that they get eaten. Haven't you ever seen a James Bond film?
What was that movie? The Ralph Fiennes who's a cook, a chef on an island. It came out like last year or something. I never watched it, but it was this. It's kind of along
Similar concept.
Similar concept. Yeah, similar
It
concept.
came out last year, so it probably bombed at the box office like everything did last year.
I think
and this
it
year.
did okay. It was fairly popular for the concept, I think. But yeah, Ray Fiennes was the lead. I can't remember the name of it though.
I don't remember
Because
the name of it
all I can
either.
think of is The Bear, which is the cooking show about the guy in
but
Chicago.
everybody
right?
gets killed in it, except for the main protagonist.
Well, spoilers, Joe. All of our audience was going to go watch
Did
that
I just
movie.
spoil that? Was that out loud? Oh, delete that, Jake. Take that out of there. Just delete. Just cut that out.
Casey Royals
Hey,
fan says that sharks eating people is demonic. No, it's
That's
just nature.
That's no, it is. She's right.
That's just
it's
nature.
also nature. It's
I
both.
mean, I don't know.
Sharks aren't possessed.
Are lions eating people demonic? Because when a human being gets bit by a shark, it's because a human being is entering the natural habitat of the apex predator in the area.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And
I don't know if there's anything demonic about it.
sharks don't generally don't attack or eat humans. It's they misunderstand what the human is or doing there. They think it's a
not
turtle
usually,
or
but
they think it's
you do
something
get
other than.
occasionally like these outbreaks of a shark attack where you have like one kind of, I don't know, mentally damaged shark or something who's just like, ooh, this tastes terrible, give me more. And like the New Jersey case that happened, that was the inspiration for Jaws. But those are the exceptions to the rule.
Yeah.
You guys need to catch up with your synodality, in all honesty, because the reason that sharks actually bite humans, it's very clearly been taught for the last 5 minutes by Vatican prelates, is because of all the man-made colonialism that we've pushed into the ocean.
What it is.
They're just retaliating. They're just the natives
Hernan
retaliating.
Cortez. Hernan Cortez is what's wrong with the world today. Hernan Cortez.
It's also because the church. It's also because sharks attack humans because the Catholic Church is homophobic, and what we need are more things like this story out of Gloria TV this morning, where some Swiss abbot got re-upped for his position by the Pope. This Swiss abbot is this broke an hour ago, right? This Swiss abbot is all about homosexuals being great. He says the church may rejoice in homosexuals as children loved by God.
Just remember that Hitler went to the Latin Mass before it's bad.
Well, if Hitler does it, then it's bad. That's the standard right there. Hitler can only do bad things. Hitler was never capable of anything
Hitler
good.
drank water out of a glass, so you should.
Which is why I never drink water.
Like I said yesterday, Hitler loved his dogs, so everyone needs to go out and shoot their pets.
Bad dogs.
Every dog person is literally Hitler and an actual Nazi.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone. Hey, AKC783 says, I'm in Cupich's diocese and he has come to my parish before. If he comes again, how bad would it be for me to personally gift him a copy of the new book on Malachi Martin?
No one reads books.
It'd be a good choice. And who knows? He's an old feller. Maybe he reads books.
He'd throw it in the trash bin.
Yeah.
That's what he would do.
You would find it in the trash bin in the vestibule in that church.
Don't listen to him, AKC. Don't let that stop you.
Keep the book yourself. Don't waste your money. Keep the book yourself and read it.
Don't listen to these people. They're trads. They shouldn't. Just give him the book. Give him the book and then pick it up out of the trash bin and keep it and read it for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you do. Hey, praise be to God in all things. Thanks for the laughs. Thanks for the curveballs and all the bumpy ride in between with Nicholas and Anthony Stine and dare I say, even Trad Jack Burton tweet and toe. God love you. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.